Hello and welcome to Noonday Forum. Family, we are back. We are Sanctuary Ministries International, Paradigm Makers, equipping the army of God and preparing the bride of Christ. We are live on Lydia Thompson Facebook page, Sanctuary Ministries International Facebook page. We are live on YouTube, on Twitch, Grace Gospel Radio, and World Vibes Radio over there in St. Anne, Jamaica. Bishop Robert Dowell is here this afternoon, and he will have a wonderful guest. So I'll hand over to Bishop without further ado.
Yeah, very soon, a very good and old, he's not old, but he's an old friend that we've been friends for many decades now and have shared our walk with the Lord. And that's really what has bonded us together. And I have benefited greatly from this friendship that has been knit together by the Lord and his Spirit. And I want to share with you, and we want to share with you, the kind of dialogue which is just normal for us. We just talk about what the Lord has been doing in our life, has been revealing to us. We talk about the scriptures, and we don't really do much chit chat. Not talking about the weather or anything, but Jimmy Spellman, who has a prophetic voice. He speaks into the church by the Lord's anointing, and he has a very different way that is much like Isaiah or Ezekiel, really, because he actually demonstrates, he actually does things. He just doesn't speak words, but sometimes what he speaks is sort of like, not that he's done this, but Isaiah went naked for 390 days, I think it was. Or was it Ezekiel that laid on his side for 390 days? But either way, Jimmy does these kind of events. He sets things up as the Lord directs him. And they're very different. It's not that anybody could kind of take this on and do it. But that is a part of the way that he hears from God. We all hear from God in slightly different ways. And he has a unique way of hearing and expressing also. He really, as far as I know, hasn't had academic training, which for him, I think, works for the best, because he has a way of hearing from God and then expressing it that is in very practical, unique ways that speaks to our generation in a language that I think we can all relate to. So he's trying to get on right now. He's in the United States. I'm here in London with Prophetess Lydia, and Jimmy will be coming in as soon as he can navigate the technology of StreamYard. StreamYard. We haven't done this in a long time, so it may take him a while to figure out how to get on. I think he's getting on with his phone. So anyway, we'll wait for him.
Jimmy is in the studio, but his device is not connected.
Okay.
He left again. He left just now. He was in the studio, but it says his microphone need to be connected. Okay. So maybe you need to send him a message that he was here, but he need to connect his microphone.
I can send him a message.
While Bishop Robert is doing that, I want to take this time to welcome those who are live on Grace Gospel Radio, those who are live on World Vibes Radio, on Facebook, on YouTube, and also on Twitch. If you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, go ahead and share. Tell somebody that the prophets are in the house. If you're on Twitch, you're a gamer, you come across this broadcast, we are here to minister to you today. Bishop Robert.
Yeah, I want to say as we wait for Jimmy, hopefully he'll be able to navigate this. He sort of got on and then his device knocked him off. Um, how important it is to listen to uh, true prophets that have a long time testimony that we know. We know personally, and I know him personally. You may know Prophetess Lydia personally. Some of you may know me, but Prophetess Lydia and I have a relationship, a friendship that goes back to 1991 when we first met. And we knew each other for about 10 years. And then we ended up not seeing each other for many decades, or 2 decades. And then we renewed our acquaintance through Facebook. And then we ended up coming together in January 7th of 2020, and we were married on January the 11th of 2020. So we have known each other for a long time, and that really makes a difference because a lot of the people that we see coming on Facebook, maybe we don't know them, or we don't know the people that know them. We don't know the truth of their testimony. You can follow somebody for a while and everything seems real, and then all of a sudden, they're getting a divorce, or something happens in their life that shows that they've been not exactly honest about their walk with the Lord. So it's so important to have these men and women in our life whose testimony, sort of like having a letter of introduction. In the early church, they would do that. They would have a letter of introduction. This is Barnabas is introducing Paul and saying, "This is Paul. He's from so and so," and so they would know who they were talking to. That gives you a testimony that has validation. And I want to say that for me, and you, Prophetess Lydia, has validated me, and for the people that I know that she doesn't know, I validate her and say, I know this woman. She is not only is she my wife, but she has had a ministry as long as I've known her, and her words and her life are in sync. She's not saying things that she doesn't live out. She's not perfect. I'm not perfect. Jimmy's not perfect. But we walk in confession. We walk in the light as much as we can to have fellowship with one another, as John wrote in his letters. So we are going to have that conversation at some point today if Jimmy can get on board here with the technology. In the meantime, I want to just tell you some of the things that I'm doing. And I've been finishing up this book for 2 months, and I have never written a full book before. I've written a lot of short things, but I've never done short teachings and sermons and poems. I've never written a book of 60-some thousand words. And it is a different experience because this is going into print, so it has to be formatted. And you have to go over every little detail to make it presentable for print, as well as to check over every part of your language. Like on right now, speaking extemporaneously, I can say and maybe wander around a little bit, but in a book, you want to have it all so that it's as clear and as easily understandable as possible. So it has taken me months longer to navigate software and word processors and all the things that are necessary to check grammar and spelling, and then I have English spelling and English, American English, and we spell quite differently. So I've also had to navigate that. issue, learning how to do British spelling, because I kind of like it. So, but that means that my manuscript that has been written in American English is different. We don't spell neighbor the same way. Neigh. BOR is American English, and it's BOUR in British spelling. And my book is about truth, as seen through the letters and the writings and the testimonies of the patristic fathers, which are the early church fathers, the pillars of the church, from Origen and Irenaeus and Polycarp, that go all the way back to the apostles and those who had the testimonies of knowing Jesus Christ and knowing these apostles as well, the 12, and the 12 including Paul. Welcome, Lamona. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you for quite a while. I know Prophetess Lydia has on Morning Manna, but it's a welcome sight to know that you're here with us. And we are still waiting for Jimmy, so I'll just go on to talk about my book a bit. It's been an amazing exploration, because a book is me, the one I am writing is me exploring truth. And I'm exploring it through the voices, through the letters and writings of these early church fathers. And I have found them to be friends. They are still alive, Those who are in Christ Jesus never die. So they are alive in heaven. I haven't had any communication with them except through their letters. But I'm looking forward to having some communication with them when the Lord returns, or when I pass on to be with them, because I found them to be friends who have made a pathway for us, have examined the scriptures, have walked it out in community, walked it out through persecution, many of them giving their lives for their testimony. Extraordinary stories. Polycarp, who was burned alive, Justin Martyr, Ignatius, these men and women of God, women as well, Perpetua, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Perpetua, who also gave her life in the Roman games, where they would have the wild beasts attack and kill the Christians that they would release into the arena. And she gave her life in that way, saying that she had no fear because God was with her. He who had saved her was also with her, and gave an amazing testimony. She was not afraid of being killed by wild beasts, because she had that living testimony, that living relationship with our living God. And she was not alone. She's one of many thousands, if not tens of thousands, of Christians who gave their life for their testimony for Jesus Christ. They also said that the martyrs are the seeds for the church, that when the church is persecuted, the church expands and grows. It's purified. Now that's going to be happening in the Western church. We're persecuted in certain ways, misunderstood, slandered, and sometimes I think the slander may actually be real, unfortunately. But the kind of persecution that is coming will be much more like the persecution that the early church experienced for about 400 years, where we give our lives for our testimony. So in order to do that, we have to have a living relationship with God that is deep, that is abiding in his word, walking in his word, knowing his word, and having relationship with one another. We're not going to be able to face these things unless we have that, because we need to have Christ within us in a manifest kind of way, where we're having a living relationship based on obedience, based on an intimate life of prayer that's between us and God, where it's not just public praying, but it's closet praying. As Jesus said, we want to, when you pray, don't go out into the streets, but go into your closet and pray. And that's an extraordinary thing. My life has been based on prayer, prayer and the word. But most of what I have learned has been through my own relationship with God in prayer and in studying his word, and also in prayer. To take a word and to meditate on it and walk in it and with it. Well, welcome. I have been sharing about the book that I have, I think, finished today with my fifth or sixth editing. And so I've been talking about the book called Truth, from Eden to Incarnation, Voices of the Patristic Fathers. So welcome, Jimmy. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
We're gonna put you up front where I am right now as the big head, and we're gonna make you the big head. There you go. Wonderful. We have a few here. I'm going to turn it back over to Prophetess Lydia for a second to introduce you to everyone. And I'm not sure who's here. This is our first broadcast in 6 months or so. And so we will build an audience as we come back over and over again. But right now, I'll turn it over to Prophetess Lydia, and then we'll come back and have our conversation.
Yes.
You're muted.
Thank you, Bishop. Hello again to everyone. We are live on Grace Gospel Radio. We are live on World Vibes Radio. We are live over there on Lydia Thompson's page, Sanctuary Ministries International Facebook page. We are live on YouTube and also on Twitch. We have Sister Lamona saying good afternoon. It's good to see you, Sister Lamona. We have Woman of God, Sister Miriam from the United States saying grace and peace to you, Bishop Robert. And Sister Marcia over there in Jamaica. We miss you at Morning Manna, but you're here for Noonday Forum. Welcome. You are in for a treat, family. You're in for a treat today. Prophetess D is in the house. She says, good morning, Bishop.
Wonderful.
Prophetess D is here, and it's good to have you. Please like and share this broadcast. I'm just going to be in the background taking notes for those who are not able to hear well, but they can see. So if you miss some things, you will see it in the chat. If you have a question or need some clarity on anything, please put it in the chat and I will highlight it as Bishop Robert and Prophet Jimmy talk together. They will look at the screen and they will respond to you accordingly. So it's good to have you, Prophet Jimmy. It's been a while. It's good to have you here. Back to you, Bishop Robert and Prophet Jimmy. Over to you.
Thank you. And greetings to all of you. I just put up the comments on here so I could see Marion Philwood, if that's pronounced correctly, Fullwood. Welcome. Good to have you here, and Sister Marcia and Lamona and Prophetess D. We are glad to have you. Well, Jimmy and I are just going to have, as I've already explained, we're just going to have our little conversation. I've given a little testimony about our relationship over the years. Prophet Jimmy, that you're not someone that we don't know, someone that we do know, and I know, and can testify as to your unique relationship with the Lord. I think we all have a unique relationship, but I feel like yours is more unique than most. I love the way that you are given things like honeybees to demonstrate God's activity and life in this world that has an impact on the church. Now, not many can have that testimony, but it's a wonderful one that I appreciate very much. So we are used to having these little conversations no matter where we are. I'm traveling to California, and over the years, and I walk on the beach or on the bay, and call Jimmy, and we talk for an hour or so. And we're not talking about the weather usually, but we're talking about what God is doing in our life, or what he's saying, or we're going through. We're not trying to win an argument or convince each other. We're just sharing and trying to listen the best way that we can. So good morning. Jimmy's in Fort Mill, South Carolina, and it's about 7:30 in the morning there. Welcome.
Thank you, Bishop Bob. Yeah, I had a little
volume up a little bit if you can, or get it closer.
Yeah, let me. I had it all set up. I went and bought a stand for the cell phone, got it in there. Was really thought, the light is right. Let me shave. And that one didn't work. So, but Prophetess Lydia was very helpful, calling me up and telling me what to do.
Okay.
But I'm going to put in headphones.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit technology, behind, but we'll get there. Hold on.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think
Now,
the last time you were on here, you got your setup pretty well, so that we could see you and hear you well. So I am quite confident that will happen again.
Yeah, how's the volume now? Are you hearing me good?
That's a little better. Speak as loudly as you can.
All right, let me go a little more. Here we are. Let's see, this any better?
I think so. Let's try.
If you're hearing sirens, it's not my house. They're not coming.
That was a London siren. We have them here at least once an hour, so it's not.
But I
unique.
heard it stop. Do you hear footprints coming up the stairs now? Footsteps?
No, they're not coming for me.
All right.
Not yet. They haven't learned what a danger you and I are. So hopefully they won't find out for a long time.
Well, I did look forward to this time of hanging out with all you guys, everybody that I've met on this forum. And I was thinking of you guys that when I woke up, I was very smooth and calm about the whole thing. Sometimes I get a little disturbed by new things, but God started to allow me to be very disturbed because he wanted to show me a lot of new things. So I got to tell you, I don't know if you ever heard of that, Bob. Do you get disturbed by things God shows you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a little anxiety attack this morning because we have an appointment, and it looked like maybe all the papers weren't together. So I don't do as well. When I was running my business, I was running maybe 20 jobs at one time and 10 employees and things all over the place. And I was used to it. That was normal. Now, if I have to brush my teeth, I have an anxiety attack. So, anything that's different.
All right.
So I'm used to just having my own space, of course, sharing that with Prophetess Lydia, but doing my work and studying, and it's a nice, peaceful, calm thing. So anything out of the ordinary, at first, it kind of shakes me. I don't know. I wish it wasn't that way. It's not that I don't have faith. Maybe it is I don't have faith. I don't know. It's just that I don't want to pay the price of it not going well.
Yeah. So,
anyway, I commiserate.
Yeah, I'm not sitting here with nothing to say. I'm actually waiting for an outside cue. You know, like this helps me not think I'm making this up. You know, I'll start with that and then give it back to you. When God, this is my experience, when God is making indications to me or showing me things or mingling himself in my mind, I had to learn that is even valid, and it's not me, not some kind of psychosis or spiritual thing that somebody else was putting on me. And I found that through the process of having a refined trust for the voice of God within my own self, that he wants to talk to me privately. As the process developed, I started to become, I would call it, smoothed out. So I try to stay in that smooth. And I'm at the point now, this has taken a lifetime, where I'm aware not to let intrusion come in and disturb me. Now, the Apostle Paul especially speaks a lot about being disturbed. He sometimes is disturbed by God because of various reasons. You could read them if you felt like it. But from his own experience of being disturbed by God, Paul has, you might say, legitimate understanding to write in the scriptures. He's concerned about us being easily disturbed by a story or a spirit. And he always points us back to that intimacy of the voice of the Father within us. And I heard a little bit about your intro as I was going through the paces of getting my electronics here straightened out. And I was listening what I could hear to try to follow you as you made introduction. And I was agreeing with you, and I was just kind of building on that. So that's where I'll leave it.
Well, I like, it says, Jimmy has on the screen here, I don't know if you can see it, it says God's Tree Man, Prophet Jimmy, God's Tree Man. Yeah. And I wanted to explain that. Some of the conversations that we have had, Jimmy's been in a tree. And in the past, he comes from Long Island, and his father was a chef. And so he grew up learning how to be a chef, but in his teenage years, he decided to, he ended up becoming what he calls, and what many call, a tree man. So he climbs trees, and you've seen them, I'm sure, people that will come and take down a tree in your yard, maybe a big tree, or it'll take limbs that maybe need to be trimmed off. And it's a very extremely dangerous and an unusual skill to climb in trees, but it's a good metaphor for our life. So some of the times, however, when Jimmy's been up in a tree and we have conversations, the presence of God will come upon us, and it's not always the best place to be in a tree. So Jimmy will come down and lay on the grass next to the tree. And sometimes he's even ended up in the sidewalk, I think. Of course, he was in New York and I was in Virginia at the time. So I couldn't see exactly where it was. But sometimes that happens. That doesn't happen all the time, but it has happened in the past. But I wanted to say that I've seen his work because he took down. He really changed an old tree in my son and daughter-in-law's next to their house nearby where I lived. And it was a very, very dangerous tree because it was an old swamp maple kind of tree, soft maple. And they tend to get some dead branches. And this one had some dead branches that were very dangerous. And he wouldn't have done it for money because it was way too dangerous. It's the kind of thing that you just don't want to do. You take the tree down maybe, but don't try to get up in it. But he did that, and with my grandson, who was only about 9 years old at the time. So that was his safety man, and he had to train them. And then in the end, he turned the whole tree into this amazing tree swing. And that had a platform, and I don't know if it's still there today. That was about 15, 11, 16 years ago, almost 16 years ago. So it may not be, but all the grandkids would swing on this tree. So he's not only, and then he would come over and cook a meal. He would go and look at my refrigerator because we were going through a time of grief then. And so we had a lot of family around. He would just go look in the refrigerator. Now this, to him, I'm sure this is just normal, but he would look in my refrigerator and he would disappear. And he wouldn't look in long. I mean, like, for me, if I'm trying to find a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, I look in the refrigerator for 5 minutes, just trying to get the peanut butter and the jelly or whatever. But he would just look in the refrigerator and then disappear. And then he would come back and chop some things up very quickly, and then he would disappear again, and then he would come back, and then we would have a meal for 10 or 15 people. And later on. So anyway, that's my introduction to Prophet Jimmy, and I don't know how he feels about my introduction, because that was me on the outside looking in to his life. And
Wow.
And these were gifts of love that would make me cry if I think about them, so I won't.
Well, I'm nearly crying myself. I'll tell you why. Because God took me a little time travel as you were speaking and permitted me to be outside of myself and see how I was received and what I was there for. And I have to tell you, at the time, I didn't know. I was just struggling to do the next 15 minutes, half hour. It was the way I lived most of my life. I don't really have, a 5-minute plan even. So, but yet, this doesn't mean you don't plan. I just don't consider my appointments and the books that are the calendar that has people's names on it of trees I have to do. That to me is not a plan. That's just categorizing where I'm going to be at specific times. Mm-hmm. A plan to me is like, God, it's the fulfilling of the wonder of God's mysteries. That's the plan to me. So he's the only one that has that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my life experience by God's design, I didn't achieve to this, you see. I'm just coming to terms that I have been designed by God, and I'm trying to properly respond to his design, like work
Yeah.
with him on his reasons for giving me the life I had. So when you talk to me about my tree work, it's it's a continuity of 53 years that I've been climbing trees, and I still do. And I don't know what the last tree looks like, but God does. I don't know what my last day looks like, but God does. I go so far as to say, look, there's a lot of things I don't know. I didn't even ask to be here. I was appointed to have existence. I came through my mother, Edna, my father, Warren. That sounds very silly and fundamental, but hey, you got a deeper meaning of birth? Let me know. But there's much more to our existence than our natural birthday. And we were foreknown by God before even my mother was born. And not only that, but he called me and chose me. And then I read this recently. According to how well I did the trees, No, I just made that up. He called me according to his own glory and excellence. So that has me pursuing a God. Can we have a little session on glory and excellence today? So that's been happening to me the past couple of months. And my tolerance of all things has expanded because I'm not looking at the dysfunctions and all of the needs and all of the horrors around me. I'm looking at the excellence of God. And he is going to sum it all up. So now I see my existence as my reasonable service. And I say, Father, the honor is mine. So as you were talking about me doing all those things, climbing trees, cooking and all that, I was looking at it and saying, yeah. Wow. And yeah, it was me, but that was then, this is now. What do you do if you time travel within your own mind about your own life experiences? So I got to tell you this, maybe late spring of 2024, which would be a little less than a year ago, I felt like God was speaking to me in my thoughts. And I write in books like this, little journals, just to keep track. The reason I write is to keep track of something that came as pretty profound understanding to me. It keeps me very excited. That's my biggest adventure. It's more adventurous than tree work. I'm climbing into the trees of knowledge in the spirit. So some of them are. So anyway, I write stuff down. So I felt like the wish of God toward me was collect all of those books. I have them in boxes here, there, all over the place. So I collected them all and I put them in this room I sit in. This is the room I sit in. And I waited a few days, and my gesture to God is one day I was sitting like this, just having a session with God, and I said, yeah, they're over there.
Can you talk to God like that? You don't have to say thee or thou or anything, right?
Well, I knew that he knew. And I thought, I'm always testing my relationship with God to see if his love is real. I used to do it in destructive ways, but now I don't. Now he's delivered me from evil. When you pray, lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil. I pray, deliver me from evil, like every day. And he has. So now I'm not trying to see how much I could get away with. I'm trying to see how much perpetual insight I can gain. any given day. So then it occurred to me that God wanted me to put these books in a specific order, dating them. So I did, and they're all on the floor right there. So it's like, I don't know, 100 books. But the reason I'm telling this story is, so I did. I put them in date order, because I date when I write. I just looked, when did this book start? When did it finish? And it's like a library there. Some days I look at those and I look at over there and go like, who do I think I am? Writing little things down. Sometimes I read this in the, I believe it's in the book of Romans. It says, in our conscience, it commends us and condemns us. So sometimes we have a commending thought and sometimes we have a condemning thought. So that's part of our lives. But after that process, I'll get back to almost a year ago in the spring of, late spring of 2024, I felt like God made indication to me, and I interpret it as this. It's as though God said to me, now I'm going to interpret your life to you. And I sat back, I might have been sitting here, and I'm like, oh. I didn't say anything. My thoughts were, I didn't know that existed. The words of Daniel came into my mind. Do not interpretations belong to God? God has the interpretation for everything, and it belongs to him. If I have an interpretation of anything, he granted it. So it started me on a journey to be informed by God. Why should I trust my own interpretation or yours? And I don't have to seek or pursue or strive or labor or all these things. So it started to put me in a more smoother day-to-day in my natural man, spiritual man. How do I know when I'm walking in the spirit? So am I walking in the spirit when I'm climbing a ladder to go in a tree? It's hard to explain that. There's no litmus test. It's about how you see Christ in you, how you see yourself in Christ. Now, that can't be explained. There's not an X-ray in the land that'll be able to confirm that Christ is in you. And I heard Bishop Bob speaking about possible imposters. They sound good, and then you find out there's a little character flaw. Spirituality is character. It's about being conformed into the image, which only God can do. I can't perfect my flesh. And God is not trying to perfect my flesh. I've died. It's about me learning the mystical, spiritual, Jimmy world realm, which consists of himself and myself. Today, I happen to be sharing with you guys, but Christ is in you. I'm not in you. I'm in the Father. I can associate with the brethren. We're instructed, love the brethren. We are living stones, but I'm not you. You're not me. The two become one flesh in marriage. We have this creature-to-creature relationship that God fosters within us, learning to love. But a creator-to-creature relationship is intimate, confidential, and personal. It's where we're all going to end up. And I was looking at that today because I was asking God, without being stressed either. I was like very smooth about it. I said, so what about, I mentioned names. I mentioned Prophetess Lydia. I mentioned Bishop Bob. and some other folks that were on my mind, knowing that I'll be interacting. And it was like, I don't want to just talk, but this came back to me in my mind. I learned this a while ago, and I keep it in my mind. Jesus answered his disciples because they were questioning Jesus about, why do you talk in parables? And he answered them. This is from Matthew 13:11. And Jesus says this: to you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been granted. And then I read in Colossians 2, verse 2, it said, God's mystery, that is, Christ himself, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So that's really the beginning and the end for me in any pursuit I have in the Spirit of God, which is I'm even curious about God because he granted me that curiosity. I'm even interested to know mysteries because he granted me that also. And I'm learning that God didn't grant it to himself. He just is this way. He gives the Spirit without measure. So the restriction is with me. It's not with him. So it's shifted my focus not to, have I attained to be promoted to the next level? All of these things that say we could struggle within our minds about having regrets for failures or besetting sin, having a negative effect of somebody being mean to us or outright trying to assault us with their words. And then there's violence itself, which is physical, wounding me. Then there's the accuser of the brethren, there's guilt, there's shame, there's our own sufferings, some self-inflicted or, cause and effect, others I'm a victim. Just the everyday life. It's a wonder we could even have a moment to even want to get with God. But he creates all of these opportunities for us. And I read this. He upholds all things by the power of his might. He's really the one in charge. The creatures that run around on the planet telling us what they're going to do, when they're going to do it, they're like it's a vapor. They're going to die too. Someone else will show up and they'll be king of the mountain for a little while. Isaiah 40 is a great place to get a little stability. It's a mysterious collection of words. You're not going to breeze through this like Psalm 23. But I've been remaining there. I only lift a few words at a time, and I walk among them. But I wanted to get to the point of, I took the long way around to speak about, do not interpretations belong to God? That's what Joseph said, or Daniel. No, Joseph said that.
Yeah, Joseph. Mm-hmm.
What happened with Daniel is the angel showed him a whole bunch of stuff and told him to seal it up, that it was for a later time.
Mm-hmm.
And then this amazing thing happened. The angel said, and as for you, Daniel, go your way. That's by what authority I jaywalk in the Spirit. I don't cross in the lines of religion or rules or regulations, nor do I strut down the street with a chip on my shoulder like, nobody tells me what to do. No, I found out, like Jesus found out, well, I think he already knew, if you break their rules, they try to break you.
You know, bringing this up about Daniel, some things were sealed for a later time. Some things could be revealed.
Yeah.
And I was thinking as I was rewriting today, I would come across different sections. And I was thinking about that very thing, that like Isaiah's prophecies, Zechariah's prophecies, I mean, all the way back to Adam and Eve and to Abel. I mean, some of those things that were given then happened then. Some of them happened and then they were explained. But others were prophesied and they were going to happen. But nobody knows when. The prophets are looking within themselves to see when this time might be. And I had an experience the other night, Monday night. And some of the things that I've shared with you about the visions I've had, and the word vision is tossed around like, you know, dreams even. Like everybody has dreams, but does everybody have a dream like Daniel's or Joseph's? You know, things. Do we have dreams that are given to us by God that it's like we're dreaming his dream and he's going to fulfill it. He's going to watch over it like it's his word. And visions are like that too. We can have an idea and it looks like a vision. Maybe we can even visualize it. That's one kind of vision. You can have a trance, but there's different kinds of visions. And there's open heaven visions where actually like John or he's caught up, and there's trances like Peter had that had confirmation immediately. But there's other things that God says, don't tell anybody. You know, shut this up for now. Monday night, all of a sudden, some things that I have been kind of really, if I speak about them, I suffer. And so I don't like suffering, so I don't speak about them. But I can speak about them to you. I can speak about them to Prophetess Lydia, but I can't just speak about them to anybody. Just seal them up. But he's opened some things up that I can speak about now that I couldn't speak about. And actually, I can write about them and publish them where before I couldn't. So that's happening. I don't know what that means. It doesn't mean that these things are going to happen now, but at least it's the time to be able to speak about them. So we are going to be seeing things happen because we're entering into a different era. You know, they didn't call the World War I World War I. They called it the Great War because you have to have World War II in order to have World War I, right?
Yeah, history tries to interpret, but God is the interpreter.
So I was thinking about the timing, and when you talk about something, I've heard people. I remember some kind of person that was known as a prophet talking about Florida being covered with water. Now, I think that may happen someday, but they acted like it was going to happen very quickly. And then I had a prophet come to me a long time ago, about 40 some years ago, and tell me that, you know, California was going to fall into the ocean. But he thought it was right now. So even just because we have heard things from the Lord doesn't mean necessarily that we have the timing. Very few prophets ever knew about timing, John the Baptist being one of them. That's who he was. He was a messenger to talk about the timing, like it's now. And he's not only it's now, but he's standing in your midst, somebody. And I don't even know who he is myself, but I know he's there because God told me. But that's rare. That's not a common kind of thing. And I'm not telling anybody anything happening now exactly, but at least we are entering this era. And I think the kinds of things that you're talking about that you've been experiencing are things that I've been experiencing too. I don't know if it's because we're a little older, but I think it's more maybe that we're taking time to really meditate more on his ways and upon him and spending time with him, and he's revealing more. So that we're not so much looking at our life as if it were coincidence, but that we're seeing the hand of God through our life, even when we didn't know it was the hand of God. I look back on my life and said, oh, that was God talking back there when I was 7 years old. That was in when I was 13. That was in when I was 8. But I didn't recognize it at the time. I didn't know his voice. I didn't know that clarity and that joy, that something that came with that voice was him. Just thought it was me. You sort of touched on that in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, this thing you were mentioning, Bishop, about secrets, keep a secret, confidential relationship with God. It's from these experiences I've had recently that I made the statement that I have creature to creature relationship, but I also have creature to creator relationship. And that's my vertical. So my vertical relationship with God is my primary. To the degree I learn of him is the degree I could love the brethren.
Right.
So God started showing me persons. I knew about persons of interest because that was something that began some time ago. But I like to avoid the history of my experiences with God because I never know where they go. But something that just happened that God granted to me, I know where it came from and I know what happened to me about it. So it's got living, active stuff on it, you know? So this morning, I knew that I would be on this program, and it doesn't bother me now. In the beginning, it did, that you introduced me as Prophet Jimmy, because most people see me as a tree man, or like you introduced me, some guy that'll come to your house and cook, and you wouldn't even know it till you crawl to the table, that sort of thing. I could do things that are not noticeable and then present large portions of stuff that's noticeable, like creating a meal or taking down a tree. The person is out, they come home and the tree's gone, and they're like, wow. So I'm used to people displaying shock and awe. So oftentimes I drop things and walk away in, say, if I'm speaking of something that was perhaps, well, here's the thing. Paul said this about himself. see us as stewards of the mysteries. So that's the way I see myself. If people want to say, Jimmy's a
That's
prophet,
good.
this is Prophet Jimmy, I'm okay with that, because it doesn't matter what I call myself or how you see me, but Paul laid out a precedent of being a steward of the mysteries of God. That's why I
Wow.
started with the word mysteries, because God was speaking to me about mysteries. So he took me out of myself about what I already have learned in life, and he presented me with eternity. And this guy Solomon wrote in Ecclesiastes, God has put eternity in the hearts of men, yet so that they will not discover his works even till the end. There's no end to the increase. So in art and in, say, mechanical drawing, in sketching, there's a thing called vanishing point. And if you go to, say, a lake, a very large lake or a body of water, where the sky touches the horizon of the sea or the body of water, you could say that's a vanishing point. It's where the two just become one. So as far as we could see with what God has permitted us to perceive by sharing and giving us insight personally, and there's room for teachers and pastors and prophets and apostles active in our lives, but they cannot be our surrogate. We ourselves have to behold the mysteries of God. So I found out what happens as we go from glory to glory or mystery to mystery. He keeps extending the vanishing point. So if you could pick a spot way on the horizon and you drive there, it might take you an hour. You didn't reach the end of the earth. Now you see the vanishing point just extended. So there's always the distance in front of us. So there's always more mystery in front of us.
Wow,
And
beautiful.
what we've had in the prophetic movement in my lifetime are men who have made monuments of what God has shown them. And they've beaten down people to not seek the granted mysteries that God has for individuals. They've taken the portions of the ewing lambs. So, but
Well,
but we're in a moment of time, and you were mentioning it before, and I would just say, it's my thought also, Bishop, that it goes like this. God, the river of God flows into our lives. And if you've ever watched a river, you see stuff floating by. God floats stuff down the river into our lives. He's floating branches and logs from the tree of knowledge. The eternal, the trees by the river, the trees for healing. We all think that these are perfect trees, almost artificial looking. Well, if they have fruit, does the fruit ever fall off? What if a fruit falls off one of the trees along the river in the scriptures and floats down, and I'm in the water and I catch it and I start eating on it? This is not some kumbaya symbolism of, there's no deterioration, trees don't need pruning. Well, I don't know about all that stuff. But I know this, God floats stuff down the river, and right now, what we're talking about, Bishop, God's floating this stuff down the river. That's why we're talking about it. We didn't start talking about it, and God says, the eyes of the Lord look to and fro, seeking those whose hearts are turned toward him. I see Bishop Bob and Prophet Jimmy. Let me float some stuff down to them. We didn't call down. We didn't pull it down. I was in a Pentecostal meeting one time, and they were dancing around singing, pull it down, and they were believing that it was up to them to reach for God and pull him down to come to them, so that Jesus could be in their midst, and then they could experience signs and wonders and praise and worship and on and on and on. And I remember standing there thinking, I've never heard of this technique before.
I think I was at that meeting.
I have to talk like an Irishman. This is a bit assuming, I think. What the? I won't say the next word. So I had to make a decision then that even if this is so, I don't want it that way. I don't want to pull it down. I like God granting it. So when I'm in the flow of what God's granting, oh man, it carries you scary places, scary to the natural thinking, that is. Anyway.
Absolutely.
If
we're not scared, well, then it's not God. Go ahead. I wanted to say,
yeah, go ahead.
We started a little late, but I think this is so good. We'll try to pick it up on Sunday if possible. I'm going to have to leave in about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I want to continue this on Sunday. But go ahead and finish your statement. But then we're going to have to.
Okay. I just wanted to get back
to finish because we have an appointment.
My beginning was that we are stewards of the mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
And whoever you think you are, people accept you as, or whoever you see yourself as, it's okay. There's no, I'm not defining that. What I am trying to define is the secret mystery that is personal. And in the book of Revelation, chapter 2, verse 17, I'm going to read what it says. To him I will give some of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone and a new name written on the stone, which no one knows but he who receives it. So here is precedent that God has confidential, secret information about himself that he wants to float into you. What you do with it, I would say discuss it with the one who gave it to you first. Don't just go to the laundromat and post it on the bulletin board, because you might get invited to be a speaker, somewhere. And this going and gossiping and blabbing, hey, did you hear what God told me? This has been going on for like my lifetime. Right. Once in a while, I would run into some unaccounted, unpolished person that tells me something. Could have been an angel unaware. I don't know. But we're in a time when the secrets of men's hearts are being disclosed. Well, this goes vertical too. The secrets of God's hearts are being disclosed. And that's where we can pick up on Sunday, Bob.
Amen. You just brought up so much stuff there that we have to get into. And one other thing I want to peg on next to yours there, which is exactly what you're talking about, but my way of seeing it was this: when I was a new Christian, there was this Mennonite lady, unknown, not popular, had a lot of suffering in her life, a lot of difficulty, but she had secret information.
Still waters run deep.
I didn't even know how much I was learning from her, because I didn't go deep enough into the waters. But I did taste of them. And I think about her a lot. Now, I've been to conferences and places, and I've heard, people that I think God has really used, like Leonard Ravenhill. And yet, on the other hand, I personally received more from that woman than any other sort of external person that I don't know well. She would come to our meetings, and if she ever said anything, it was crystal clear. It was like putting on God's bulletin board or something, and you can go back to it and go back to it, and it tastes even better the second time, or the third time, or the 10th time. But who are these people? And Paul says, look out amongst you to find out about these people. Who are they? Well, shouldn't we all know who they are? No, apparently not. Otherwise, he wouldn't say that. So, okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And I don't know if you can come on Sunday. We normally have this on as well on Sunday at 4 p.m. London time, which is 11 o'clock your time. But
I think that would work. But I'll speak with you by telephone between now and then.
Okay.
And I would like that very much, though.
Okay. Well, if that works, we'll announce it and put it out a bulletin, because Minister Sue couldn't be here today. She already had a previous appointment, and others, I'm sure, as well. So if they know ahead of time, they can plan, because this is rich stuff, and it's really stirring my spirit up, and I hope it's stirring everybody else's up as well, because we want to stir our spirit up. Stir it up.
Well, I've been doing a lot of cooking and canning the stuff,
Well,
Pickling.
thank you so much. We'll turn it back over to Prophetess Lydia. I think
Yes.
she's still been, I know she's busy at the same time, because she has other things going on downstairs, but if she's
here.
there she is.
Good to see you.
And so we'll turn it back over to her, and we will hopefully see you, and we'll see those who are still with us on Sunday at 4 o'clock, if God's floating that down to us at that time.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a quick prayer before you go, for those who are listening and they're still here?
Yeah, maybe Jimmy could pray if you would like to.
Okay, yeah. So, Father, there's this is a time that we joined with one another, and we looked at one another's faces and listened to each of us speak to encourage one another. And Father, we're visible to one another, but we don't have a box on this device that shows you, because you're hidden in our hearts. So God, I ask if you would arise and shine to all those who participate and receive our prayer to you. God, if you would grant to them the benefit of your presence, that they would taste and see that the Lord is good, and that they would have an appetite for more, and that you would continue to give them an increase in appetite. And I pray for Prophetess Lydia and Bishop Bob as they take some steps today, that the way will be open before them with success for their quest. In Jesus' name I pray this. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bishop Robert and Prophet Jimmy. We trust the Lord that we'll be back on Sunday. Koinonia, and we will just continue, Bishop. What do you think?
Yes, a continuation of sort of noonday forum at 4 o'clock.
Okay, lovely. God bless you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
God bless.